losing trades in a row, what do you do? Hi, it's Charlie giving you the midweek video here, and I was asked on the YouTube channel the other day about what to do. Someone's just had a losing streak or is in a losing streak, and they've had 10 losing trades in a row. So what do you do? Well, firstly, don't panic, because having 10 losing trades in a row is actually uh, one thing. It's quite common, and it's perfectly common and perfectly normal. And so don't panic is the first thing. Easier said than done, but it's what I'm trying to say is it's perfectly normal that will happen. In fact, if you take enough trades, if you've got something like a 50% win rate over enough trades, it statistically is going to happen that you're going to have 10 losing trades in a row. It might even be more than that. So even if you've got a 50% win rate, and a lot of people, they think that when they've got a 50% win rate, then that is their win rate. So for every sort of 10 or 10 trades, they're going to have 5 losers, 5 winners. There's an element of that sort of mindset that comes in. But the reality is that you're never really going to be, even if your strategy has a back-tested win rate of 50%, winners come in clusters and losers come in clusters. That's what's more likely going to happen. So forget the win rate itself and focus more on your overall profitability, because you're going to have periods where your 50% win rate is actually sitting at 80% win rate, and there's going to be periods where your 50% win rate is going to be sitting at probably 20% win rate. Yeah, and sometimes it's going to be having a really good run, and other times it's not going to be having as good a run. And within all of that as well, there will be, statistically, if you do enough trades, there will be a point where you do have 10 losers in a row. So that's the first part of my answer is for that person is not to worry too much, or certainly appreciate that it's perfectly normal. And I think if you understand that it's perfectly normal, then it helps you. So then what you can do is so what can you do about it? Firstly, yes, go if you're trading a mechanical type of strategy, then you can go back over your back-tested results of your strategy and have a look at, well, did it do it in the past? When did it last have a losing streak, and what was its maximum losing streak? And you might find that, oh, well, actually in the past, its maximum losing streak was 8 losers in a row, okay, and 8 times losses in a row. Well, that's perfectly natural then, that you can expect that whatever's happened in the past, it won't be exactly the same in the future. So if your strategy has had 8 losers in a row in the past, well, and you're on number 10 now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the strategy stopped working. It's just that's just the averages of things, that whatever you've experienced or whatever it's back tested in the past, it means that it probably can and will have a run of 10 losers or 11 or 12 in the future. You have to allow for that. But at the same time, this does give you a guide. So if it's maximum loss in the past and you've done it over a long enough period, then at least that gives you a guide. Oh, okay, that was the maximum it did in the past. It won't guarantee that that's going to be the maximum in the future. So, if it started to go too far beyond, I don't know. So if we took that and you had enough data, and before anyone says, well, how much data is the right amount of data? I don't know, because it depends on what time frame you're looking at, doesn't it? So if you're looking at, I don't know, and trade frequency as well. So there's other variables that come in. But if let's say you've back tested something over the last 10 years, and you've got, thousands of trades, and it's only maximum loss losers in a row was eight losers. Oh, okay. So yeah, maybe up to 12 losers. And if it started going beyond 12 losers in the future, then you've given it, considering you've got thousands of trade data from the past, then you would start to say, okay, is there something going on with the trading strategy itself? Is there fundamentally, has the trading strategy started to diminish its potency? So that would be something you could look at there. back testing in that regard. One other simple thing that I've already talked about that you can do is downsize your position. Now, some traders won't like to do that because they are so mechanically minded, and I understand that they will say, no, you've got to stay with the, if you're going to be risking, for argument's sake, 1% per trade, you've got to stay with that. Yeah, well, that's all very well in the theory books now, isn't it? But the reality is, if it's starting to affect you mentally, then that's not going to help you by carrying on trading the way that you with the same sort of risk parameters as you've done in the past. You speak to any of the very best fund managers in the world. Paul Tudor Jones would be a classic on this, that he would vary his position size. If he's going for a losing spell, then he would downsize his position management, and he would increase it when he's doing well. So that's a fairly standard type of thing that would go on with some of these hedge fund managers. And so, but I do understand if you've got a mechanical strategy, you don't want to just be varying it all of the time because you're trying to stay with the mechanical strategy. But if you do get to a point where it's affecting you psychologically, well, does it really matter in the grand scheme of things? If your strategy is going to continue to be good, and it's just that it's in an extended losing period at the moment, does it really matter if you downsize your positions for a while? Because at least it helps you psychologically. So if you're risking, let's say, 1% per trade, and you've got to a point where you don't feel comfortable anymore, and you've gone through a period of losing and then into a drawdown period, drop it down to 0.5%. What's the big deal in the grand scheme of things if it means that your equity curve, so if I bring a pen up here, so your equity curves come down whilst you've been in drawdown, and it's now doing this as you're coming out of drawdown, but it's taking longer than it would have done if you were risking 1% per trade, and the trajectory would be here. That is what I call a beginner's mindset. A beginner would say, or someone who's so rigid would say, oh yeah, but then you're missing out on the gains. Yeah, you are. But there's nothing wrong with this because we are human beings. We are flawed, completely flawed as in many regards. And so it's all very well the theory book saying, no, you stay with it. But what if actually that strategy has started to fail and is going to continue to come down? Your 1%, you carry on trading at 1%, is then doing this, whereas if it was to carry on coming down, trading now at 0.5% is doing this. It protects your account, it protects your capital. There's an old saying that professional traders look at how much they can lose, and newer traders look at how much money they can make. So the newer trader is thinking, yes, but if I stay with the 1% risk per trade, I could come out of the drawdown sooner. Yes, you're absolutely right. But what if your strategy has stopped performing completely? You're going to just sabotage your account potentially if you don't know when to stop, as opposed to at least it's keeping you in the game by reducing your risk. And if it does keep losing, well, you're not losing so much. So you're protecting your capital. If it does turn up, what's the big deal if it takes you longer to come out of the drawdown? You start to build your confidence back up that the strategy just seems to be performing better, and then you can then start increasing your position size back up to your 1% risk per trade, and then you finally get there. Who cares if it takes you longer to come out? And this is the problem that I have, that we always have with newer traders, that traders think that it's all about making the money, whereas in the grand scheme of things, it's actually about protecting capital at the right times as well. So my general advice is to that person who's having 10 in a row, I'm not going to really go into the psychological side of things as much any more than I already have here. But one, it's perfectly normal behavior, or normal within most trading strategies. And I say most because if you've got a trading strategy which actually has a 65% win rate, which is pretty high, or 70% win rate, then they are less likely going to have 10 losers in a row. Less likely, but they might well still do. But it's not even just about losers in a row. let's just talk about drawdown. This person's talked about the fact that they've had 10 losing trades in a row. So I've already gone through psychological ways of dealing with that in my previous video. But today's one is about the risk management, and that you are allowed, you can drop your risk. Forget the theory books and what the theory books say about, well, you should stay with it. Yes, they should do, but we are, as I said, we are flawed individuals, and when you're in the thick of a drawdown, it's really not a nice place to be for a newer trader. And when I say newer trader, I'm talking about someone who's been trading maybe up to a couple of years or so. I define them as a newer trader. And so why not take the pressure off yourself so that you can still execute better? Because what you'll end up finding is that you carry on trading at 1% risk, and then you start jumping out of trades or hesitating and all of that. So we don't want that, so we might as well reduce the risk in that regard. Okay, so yeah, I think that's enough because I'm forgetting what else to say now. I didn't want to go into too many different facets of all the things that you can do, but certainly that is one thing: reducing position size. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be like so many newbies who think that it's a poison chalice. You can't do it. And certainly, yes, it could mean that it takes you longer to come out of a drawdown. But would you rather it took you longer to come out of a drawdown than this to happen down here? And I think there's a lot to be said for that. We don't live in the theory world of trading. This is the real world of trading, and so I'm very much pro doing that. If it's the right time, you wouldn't just reduce your risk just because you've had a few losing trades in a row. There's a certain point that everyone's going to start that feel like, okay, they're now in a more protracted drawdown over a period of time or whatever, or in percentage terms, that they're now at that point where it's affecting them psychologically. So yes, you could take a break, take a few days off or something like that, but really, you want to try and stay in the game of trading. Yes, take a couple of days off if it really is affecting you mentally, because very often just taking a few days off can help. But certainly, just reduce your exposure. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And I'll probably have a load of people obviously saying, "Oh, that's wrong," but I don't. I'm going to disagree. I think it's the right thing to do if you're being affected by it. If you're not being affected psychologically by it, then you can carry on trading at your 1% risk or whatever. But at the same time, there has to be a point where you look at your account balance and say, well, actually, I need to reduce the risk on the account balance as well. So I've given, I'm in a drawdown which is beyond anything that has happened before for the strategy that I'm trading. So I do need to look at that, and I do need to now reduce my exposure. And there's all the other things that you can do, and go back over all your back testing and all of those sort of things that you can do. But that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about actual position size management. Hopefully that helps that individual who asked about the number of losses that he was having in a row, and hopefully that's given him some more food for thought. Take care for now. I'll see you on Friday, I think. I'm here for live trading the end of the week. We'll see how we go then.